Baruch atah Asherah anat melecha ha'olam asher kedishani v'yitzotav tzivani lehitatif latzitzit. Good morning, Kimmy. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודייך וחיוך הדברים האלה אשר נוחים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך ובך יהיו לטוטפות בעיניך וכתבת חכם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך וחיה כי ויחיו אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לבתיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילתה ובורות צווים אשר לא עשת כרמים וזיתים אשר לא נתת והלכת ושבת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר תישאך בארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. Hebrew, gay dog guy, but close. When Yahweh Eloheinu brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to assign to you, great and flourishing cities that you did not build, houses full of all good things that you did not fill, hewn cisterns that you did not hew, vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and you eat your fill. Take heed that you do not forget Yahweh who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. Thanks, Bree. It's nice to see you, Ghost. It was cool seeing you on that live yesterday. I had no idea what you looked like, but now I do. I hope that you had a satisfying performative experience. How are you doing today? So we will turn to the Epic of Gilgamesh. Nothing wrong with your eyes. I mean, I asked that question multiple times because, that's what happens in lives. People ask the same questions over and over and over again. I wasn't sure if you had seen it because you were performing. Yeah, I'm running late today, Ghost. Seems to be what happens these days. I have a kind of sluggishness in my body that will not go away. Even as my life has changed, the sluggishness remains. But it's okay, right? It's not bad. It's just maybe a little uncomfortable. But here we are, together, reading from this old story, written by people who could not possibly imagine this world where their story would be repeated within. So, this next chapter in the story of Epic of Gilgamesh is about Gilgamesh's grief and what he does to respond to it, to respond to the death of his friend Enkidu. Gilgamesh, distraught, rounds the steppe. He sets forth on a quest to find Upnapishtim, the survivor of the flood. This is the Ur-Noah. The Noah from Ur, if you will. Gilgamesh was weeping bitterly for Enkidu, his friend. He roamed the steppe. Shall I not die too? Am I not like Enkidu? Oh, woe has entered my vitals. I have grown afraid of death, so I roam the steppe. Having come this far, I will go on swiftly towards Upnapishtim, son of Ubar Tutu. I have reached mountain passes at night. I saw lions. I felt afraid. I took up to pray to the moon, because of the beacon of the gods. My prayers went forth. Keep me safe. In the future, they'll tell this story from personal campfires they keep in their pockets. Campfires, yes. Crystals full of light. It's a campfire, basically. Gilgamesh on the steppe, imagining people repeating his name through the ether, through glass and electricity. Thanks, Mickey. I'm glad you're here. In the following episode, found in an old version, may be placed here. In obscure passage, a god apparently tells Shamash what Gilgamesh is doing. He has put on their skins, he eats their flesh. Gilgamesh digs wells where they never were before. The water he pursues the winds. Shamash was distressed, bending down, saying to Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh, wherefore do you wander? The eternal life you are seeking, you shall not find. So Shamash assumes that Gilgamesh is seeking eternal life. It's not a bad assumption, but interesting way to introduce it into the narrative, you know? The water is no more. Gilgamesh, wherefore do you wander? The eternal life you are seeking, you shall not find. Gilgamesh spoke to him, the valiant Shamash. After my restless roaming in the steppe, there will be ample repose deep in the earth. I have been asleep all these years. Now let my eyes see the sun. Let me have all the light I could wish for. Darkness is infinite. How little light there is. When may the deed see the radiance of the sun? As the standard version resumes, Gilgamesh approaches in awe the scorpion monsters who guard the gateway to the sun's passage through the mountains. The description of the scorpion monsters is so hyperbolic as to suggest humorous intent, especially when the scorpion monster's wife corrects her husband. Oh, do tell. A pure soul. What does it mean to be a pure soul, as opposed to an impure soul? Like a soul with matter mixed in, impurities? Right, like maybe I'm a mixture of soul and marshmallow. Sorry, I don't mean to make fun. Thank you. Scorpion monsters. Let's see what the scorpion monsters have to say. The Twin Peaks are called Masham. When he arrives at the Twin Peaks called Masham, which daily watch over the rising and setting of the sun, whose peaks thrust upward to the vault of heaven, whose flanks reach downward to hell, where scorpion monsters guard its gateway, whose appearance is dreadful, whose venom is death. Whose breath is death, whose venom is death. Their fear-inspiring radiance spreads over the mountains. They watch over the sun as it is rising and setting. When Gilgamesh saw their fearsomeness and terror, he covered his face. He took hold of himself and approached them. The scorpion monster called to his wife. This one who has come to us, his body is the flesh of a god. The wife of the scorpion monster answered him, 2/3 of him is divine, 1/3 is human. The scorpion monster, the male one, called out, To Gilgamesh, scion of the gods. He said these words, Who are you? Who have come this long way before me? Whose crossing is arduous? I want to know. The goal towards which you are setting forth. I want to know. Has anyone ever seen The Never-Ending Story? This reminds me of that scene where Atreyu is in this like cosmic moonscape, and there are two statues to the left and the right that shoot laser beams. I haven't seen that film in like 15 years, but I don't know, the image is in my mind. When Gilgamesh explains his quest, the scorpion monster asserts that no one can traverse the tunnel through the mountains. Apparently, the sun crosses the sky during the 12 hours of the day and passes through the tunnel during the 12 hours at night so as to return to its rising point. Upnapishtim, my forefather, who took his place in the assembly of gods, death and life, the scorpion monster, made ready to speak, spoke to him, saying to Gilgamesh, "There is no Gilgamesh. No one has ever the mountain. Its passage is 12 double hours. Dense is the darkness. No light is there. To the rising of the sun, to the setting of the sun, to the setting of the sun." In the intervening gap, something persuades the scorpion monster to open the gateway to the tunnel through the mountains. To judge from the analogy of Upnapishtim and his wife encountered later in the epic, not to mention Ninsun and the Tabernakeeper, also later in the epic, the scorpion monster's wife intervenes on Gilgamesh's behalf and convinces her husband to admit him. Woe in his vitals! His feathers weathered by cold and sun. With sighs, now then, show him the way to Upnapishtim. The scorpion monster apparently warns Gilgamesh that he has only 12 hours to get through the sun's tunnel before the sun enters it at nightfall. Good morning, Emily. I'm late too. Don't worry. Good morning, Will. All my friends are here. The scorpion monster, made ready to speak, spoke to him, saying to Gilgamesh, "Sign of the gods, go, Gilgamesh, Mount Mushroom, the mountain ranges, safely." He opened to him the gateway of the mountain. Gilgamesh entered the mountain. He heeded the words of the scorpion monster, and he set out on the way of the sun. Late! Will, just before the stream I watched those videos about Pakistani trans Christians. It was surprising. Those images were quite striking. Tiny little church in Pakistan. That's really cool. Thanks for sending me that. You got your dog a new doghouse and putting it together yanked his leash, causing me to faceplant hard. Oh no, did you injure yourself? I'd like to visit that church one day. That would be nice. So, with that we will conclude. Gilgamesh walking underneath the mountain, passing the way of the sun. Dense was the darkness, no light was there. This episode was probably inspired by the Tigris Tunnel, a stone passage in Armenia, where a river flows under the mountain. The tunnel was several times visited by Mesopotamian kings. This relief shows men exploring it in torches. So Gilgamesh enters the deep, dark tunnel under the mountain. And we will read about it tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sure it's not. Like, frankly, I was surprised to hear that there were churches in Pakistan at all. Right? Like, I thought that they were, that nation was very strictly, Muslim, due to the way that partition happened. But, I guess it shouldn't surprise me that there are a handful of old churches there from a previous era. 'Tis but a flesh wound. Hurts to bite down. Well, I'm sure you'll get better soon. Hi. Hi, good morning. So we will wrap up today's stream with Arati from the subcontinent. These are words from the Bhagavad Gita, modified by Swamis of the Shivananda tradition, or maybe they weren't Swamis, modified by someone of the Shivananda tradition to make it more palatable to white folks like me. So I say it to you. The word Arati means flame. Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala, Venuola. Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankata Harana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Sambasara Shiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Trimutri Vatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Advaita Guravi Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Shyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Natatra Suyobati Natandrakara Tamni Mavadiobati Kutoyamagni Tomiva Bantamanwanti Sarvam Tasya Basya Samidam Vivanti Gange Kayamane Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Siddhikaveri Hiya What's going on with my throat? Namastitam Namo Namaha. Will, can I give you some reading recommendations? Hey, Ladybug. Tvameva mata chapita tvameva bandusha saka tvameva vidya javinam tvameva sarvam mama deva kayena vacha manasandriya herva buddhyatmanava prakrite sabhavad karomi adyad sakalam parasmahi narayanahi sarmarpayami Sarvadharmam pravijayam amekam savadam vraja aham sva sarvapapayo mokshayami masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. So we'll conclude with Kaddish, conclude with grief. It's grief time, as Dr. Punk says. Dr. Punk, are you here? I think you're here. Say Kaddish because we suffer. And we suffer because we say Kaddish. That's not true. Sometimes saying this prayer, I feel sadder than if I were to otherwise say it. Good grief! Thanks, Ghost. So, yeah, for the last 2,500 years, give or take, my ancestors have said these words in response to death, so I repeat them again today with you, in response to all that is wrong and all that is right. The words mean what they mean. Yidgadal v'yidgadash shemei rabah v'yama divrachute v'yamlich malchute b'chayachon v'yamechon v'chayed kol beit Yisrael v'gala v'zman kari v'yimru amin yehi shemei rabah miva'arach li'alam almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yirman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'rechu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata d'yamiran v'yama v'yimru amin yehi shlamar rabah amin shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'yimru amin Ose shalom b'mirma, huya ase shalom, aleinu v'yachol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. say shalom b'mamav, say shalom aleinu, v'alechol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Thanks. Thix. 1138. What was your question? I did not see it. Sometimes this technology that unifies us with video signals throughout the globe, sometimes it fails to capture all of the things that the people type. Sometimes things fall through the cracks. What is your question? I would love to answer it before I go. What holy text will I read next? Yeah, so that was what I was going to recommend, was what I was going to read next. And I mean, we still have like more than half of the Epic of Gilgamesh to go, so I expect to be reading the Epic of Gilgamesh through the summer, because I'll be taking a break in July because of surgery. Yes, what holy text should you read next? I would suggest that you, because they're free online, you should check out the translations of some of the texts in the Nag Hammadi library. This is a collection of Gnostic texts that were buried in a cave in the deserts in Egypt. I believe during the time of like the Gnostic persecutions, right, or like when Christianity reached a kind of hegemony. And other strains of it were no longer accessible. There's this really incredible story called On the Origin of the World, or that's what the translators have called it. It didn't have a title. It wasn't widely distributed, right? It's a fringe Gnostic text that was found in the Nag Hammadi library that is a retelling of Genesis, a very Gnostic telling of Genesis with the demiurge and corrupt matter and blah blah blah, like that, the standard Gnostic theology. But like extremely feminist, and like that's what I really appreciate. It's a feminist retelling of Genesis, like very very strongly taking Eve's perspective. But it's 1800 years old. I've not read anything Mormon. Will, yeah, like my my scholarly attitude tells me that I need to read the old stuff first and the new stuff later. So I haven't read like any religious literature dated like I haven't read most of the New Testament. So if I haven't read the New Testament, then I can't read the Book of Mormon. Interesting. Right, well, Mormon is specifically Arian, right? Like they're anti-Trinitarian. Right, they believe that Jesus is a separate divine entity to God. Right, like I think it would be fair to claim that the Mormons are polytheists in some sense. But I know very little about Mormonism, so like don't quote me on that. In any case, look up On the Origin of the World from the Nag Hammadi library, or there's another. It's fairly short, and there's something even shorter. You could read it in an hour. A poem called Thunder Perfect Mind, which is stunning, just absolutely stunning in its rhetoric. I made a video of a section of Thunder Perfect Mind a couple of years ago. I am the first and the last. Anyway, yeah, Thunder Perfect Mind. It's a short poem, also found in the Nag Hammadi library. Thunder Perfect Mind and On the Origin of the World. I think they're very special documents, and I plan on reading both of them on this stream once we finish Gilgamesh. Yeah, jump forward 2,000 years. Yeah, hi Nox. Nice to see you. It's time to go. So I'm gonna go. You went from the Gita to Mormonism, so that's quite a jump too, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to jump around that tree of religions. Like it is important also to understand the branching structure, right? What is the pattern that connects the Gita to Mormonism, and Mormonism to me, and me to you? We'll find out. So, it's time to go. Have a great day. Yeah, it's always great to start the day with these old worlds. I'm happy to see you, Ghost. I'll be here tomorrow to say these words again. Farewell. Have a lovely day.